Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. We're going to be getting into all those financial goals you've got for 2025.
Sounds good. Always exciting to see what the experts are saying.
Right. And to help us out with that, we've got some great advice from NerdWallet. So let's jump right in. You know how those New Year's resolutions can be?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to make these goals a little more achievable
Absolutely.
and give you some solid advice to make it happen this time.
And I think one of the biggest things is, it's got to be more than just, I want to save more or I want to spend less.
Right.
It's got to be a smart goal.
Right.
Right?
Smart goal. I like that.
Yeah. So we're talking specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So we'll get into that a little bit more.
Perfect.
As we go.
All right, so first things first. Hands up if you feel like you're juggling a million financial goals at once. Anyone.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Like pay off debt, save for retirement, maybe buy a house.
Travel the world.
Yeah.
Exactly. Travel the world, early retirement, the whole thing. And NerdWallet actually says that trying to do everything at once, it can lead to burnout.
It makes sense, right? If we're trying to do all these things at the same time,
Yeah.
we're not going to be successful at any of them.
Right.
So one financial planner, Kathleen Tobin, she suggests starting with what she calls emotionally driven goals. So kind of getting to the heart of what you really want.
Oh, I like that. So figure out what really motivates you
Yeah,
on a deeper level.
exactly. So think about it. What really gets you excited when you think about your financial future? Is it that sense of security, for retirement? Is it being able to, travel the world or pursue some passion?
Or for some people, it might be finally owning their own home.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big one.
Home ownership.
Okay.
So it's those goals that are tied to your values, what you really want in the long run. Those are the ones that are going to keep you motivated.
I see. So it's not about ditching all the other goals.
Yeah.
It's about picking one or two that really exactly
Prioritize.
Yeah, prioritize those big emotionally charged goals and just focus on those for now.
Yeah, and that leads us to the next step. We've got to get specific. I mean, we can't just say, I want to get better with money.
Right.
That's way too vague.
It's like, where do you even start with that?
Yeah, another expert, Sylvie Scowcroft, she said you got to have concrete actions.
I love that. Concrete actions. So instead of saying, become debt-free, which, who doesn't want to be debt-free?
Right.
But instead of saying that, you could say, I'm going to pay off an extra $200 of debt each month.
That's it.
Yeah.
There you go. You got a plan.
It's actionable. I love it. And to keep that momentum going, I actually read that Tobin suggests something pretty cool. She suggests labeling your savings accounts with goal-oriented names.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, so instead of just savings account, you could have peace of mind in 2025 for your emergency fund. Or whatever.
That's such a visual reminder.
Yeah. Every time you're putting money in there, you're like, yes, I'm working towards this.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
So we've got our priorities. We've made them super specific. What's next?
Well, you wouldn't start a road trip without a map.
Right.
Right? So you got to track your progress, make sure you're actually moving in the right direction.
So not just setting these goals and crossing our fingers, hoping for the best.
Nope, not at all. Tobin actually compares it to tracking your weight loss.
Okay.
Right. You got to monitor those weekly or monthly changes.
I see. So how do we apply that to our finances? Obviously, we're not, stepping on a scale every day.
Right.
But how do we actually measure our progress?
So you got to break down those big goals into smaller milestones, right? So let's say your goal is to save $5,000 this year. Break that down into monthly increments.
Okay.
So all of a sudden it's not $5,000, it's $400 a month.
Yeah. That seems a lot more manageable.
Way more manageable. And don't forget to check in on things like, how's your debt payoff coming along? Or your credit score, whatever those goals are that you've set.
So we got to be checking those regularly.
Regularly. But then, of course, life happens, right?
Oh, yeah.
Things don't always go according to plan.
Exactly.
So, maybe an unexpected expense pops up or, job changes or who knows.
Right. The world throws us a curveball.
Exactly.
So then what?
That's where flexibility is super important.
Okay. So being willing to adapt.
Exactly. If you need to pause a goal or even change it, that's not failure. That's just adjusting to reality.
Yeah.
Right.
It takes the pressure off.
It does.
And we can be more responsive to what's happening in our lives.
Absolutely.
It's not about being rigid. It's about being,
adaptable.
All right. Love that. So now let's talk about another big one, automation. Everyone's talking about it these days. How does that apply to our finances?
It's all about making things easier, right?
Yeah.
So one financial planner, Mike Hunsberger, is a big advocate for this. He says, think automatic transfers for your savings. You set it up once and you're good to go.
I love anything that reduces the mental load.
Right.
It's just one less thing to think about.
Exactly. And Hunsberger's advice is start small. Maybe bump up your retirement contribution by just 1% initially. You won't even notice the difference.
Right.
But over time, it really adds up.
It's like those small changes can lead to big results.
Absolutely. We've been talking a lot about the practical steps, but there's also this psychological side to personal finance
Oh, okay.
that we have to keep in mind.
How does our mind play into all of this?
So, we set these goals, we're excited, and then inevitably, life happens,
That's it.
right? An unexpected expense, maybe the market takes a dip.
Ugh, yeah, I've been there.
It can be really discouraging.
It's easy to get caught up in those setbacks and feel like, oof, I'm never going to reach my goals.
Right. And that's why it's so important to cultivate a mindset of flexibility and self-compassion.
Flexibility and self-compassion.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we do that? What are some practical tips?
Well, remember how Scowcroft emphasized being kind to yourself? That's a great starting point. Recognize that setbacks are normal. They're not a sign of failure.
It's a part of the journey.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you're struggling to meet a savings target, maybe you need to reevaluate it.
Right.
See if it needs to be tweaked. And it's not about lowering your standards. It's about having a plan that actually works for your current situation.
I love that reframing.
Yeah.
It's about being responsive.
Absolutely.
Okay. So even pausing a goal temporarily, it's not giving up.
It's not a defeat. Sometimes life requires us to shift our focus.
Yeah.
The key is to come back to those goals when you can.
Right.
Even if it's with a slightly different approach.
It's like hitting the pause button, not the stop button.
Now, what about celebrating those wins along the way? I feel like that's something we often forget to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to celebrate, no matter how small those wins are. It reinforces those positive habits.
Right.
So acknowledge and appreciate all those steps you're taking, no matter how small.
So whether it's paying off a small debt or sticking to your budget for the month,
Yes.
or even just setting up that automatic savings transfer we were talking about.
Exactly.
It all matters.
It all matters. It's like you're building this positive feedback loop for your financial well-being.
I love that. I love that analogy. And, it kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier with, having a support system,
Yes.
right? Sharing those wins with a friend or someone who's holding you accountable. It can really amplify that feeling.
It makes it more fun.
Yeah.
It's not just you going through this alone. Exactly. And speaking of making it more fun, let's talk about aligning your spending with your values. I've heard this phrase a lot, but how do we actually do that? I mean, it's not as simple as just, spending less and saving more.
Right. It's about being more mindful. Right. So take some time to actually look at your spending habits.
Okay.
And ask yourself, does this align with what I really care about?
So it's not about depriving yourself.
Right.
It's about being intentional.
Exactly. It's about making choices that reflect what truly matters to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So imagine if you could take some of the money that you're spending on things that, don't really bring you joy.
Right.
And redirect that towards things that do align with your passions.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's like giving your money a purpose.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be restrictive.
Right.
It's about making your money work for you in a way that makes you happy.
It's about enhancing your life.
Exactly.
All right. So we've talked about mindset. We've talked about aligning spending with values. It seems like we're getting a bigger picture here, right?
It is a bigger picture. It's not just about hitting these financial milestones. It's about having a holistic approach to managing your money.
Right.
So it includes your mindset, your values, even your social connections.
So it's less about rigid rules and more about finding an approach that feels good.
Yeah.
And that supports the life you want to live.
Absolutely. And speaking of things that support the life you want to live, it's not sustainable. Neglecting to plan for the unexpected.
Oh, yeah. Those curveballs we were talking about.
Yeah, the curveball.
We'll dive into that right after this. Okay, so how do we plan for those unexpected things, those curveballs life throws at us?
Well, I mean, like we were saying before, you can never predict everything, right?
Yeah.
But we can try to be prepared as much as possible. So job changes, medical bills, I mean, who knows what else could happen?
Right, another pandemic maybe.
Exactly. So we got to build some resilience into our financial plan.
Okay, so resilience. How do we do that?
Well, one of the basics is having that emergency fund, right?
Right. Peace of mind in 2025.
Exactly. That cushion can make all the difference when something unexpected pops up.
Okay, so emergency fund, check. What else?
Well, it's important to remember that financial planning, it's not just a one-time thing.
Right.
It's got to be an ongoing process.
Right, constantly assessing and adjusting.
Exactly.
Oh.
So just like we were talking about earlier, sometimes we need to hit pause on a goal or even completely change it.
Right, because things change.
Things change.
Life happens.
Exactly. And that's okay. It's not failing, it's adapting.
I'm really seeing this theme of flexibility and adaptability.
For sure.
It's like we need to be able to roll with the punches.
Absolutely. Resilience is key.
All right, resilience. Got it.
Mm.
So we need to be flexible. We need to be adaptable. What else helps us navigate this ever-changing financial landscape?
You know what else? Patience.
Patience. The long game.
The long game, exactly. Because it's easy to get discouraged, when the market dips or when we have an unexpected expense.
Yeah, you feel like you're taking a step back.
Right. But if we keep our eyes on those long-term goals, those short-term setbacks, they're not going to derail us as much.
It's like we got to stay focused on the big picture.
Exactly. Don't lose sight of the destination.
Love it. Okay, so patience, keeping the big picture in mind. What are some other tools that can help us stay on track?
Diversification.
Yes. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. So when it comes to investing, that means spreading your money across different things.
Stocks, bonds, real estate, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But it also applies to our overall financial strategy.
Okay, interesting. How so?
So we don't want to rely on just one source of income, right?
Makes sense.
And we don't want to have all our savings in one type of account.
It's like having a backup plan or several backup plans.
Right. The more diversified you are, the more resilient you are. Okay, that makes sense. So diversification helps us build that resilience. What else should we be thinking about?
I think staying informed is huge.
Knowledge is power.
It really is.
This is
Because the
right.
financial world is constantly changing, right?
Oh, yeah. New technologies, new investment options.
New trends, new everything. So we got to stay curious, keep learning, and be open to changing our approach.
Okay. So it's not enough to just set it and forget it.
Nope, we got to stay engaged.
Right. And that's where resources like NerdWallet can be so helpful.
Yeah, they've got a lot of great information.
Definitely. Okay, so it sounds like we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
And I'm already feeling more confident about tackling my financial goals for 2025.
That's great to hear.
What are your final thoughts? Any parting words of wisdom?
Just remember, personal finance, it's a journey. There are going to be bumps in the road, unexpected twists and turns.
Yeah.
But if you've got a good plan, a flexible mindset,
Yeah.
and you're committed to learning, you can create a financial future that really works for you. One that's secure, fulfilling, and aligns with your values.
I love that. That's a great way to put it. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into achieving our 2025 financial goals. Now go out there and make those dreams a reality. Okay, so we're back and talking about planning for the unexpected, those financial curveballs.
Right. It's like, expect the unexpected. We can plan and prepare, but life always throws us surprises.
It really does, like job changes or unexpected medical bills.
Yeah.
Maybe even another global pandemic, who knows?
You never know.
Right? So how do we build that resilience into our financial plans?
Well, a solid emergency fund is crucial, right?
Right, peace of mind in 2025.
Exactly. Having that cushion can make a huge difference.
Okay, emergency fund check. What else can we do to weather those unexpected storms?
Well, I think it's important to remember that financial planning isn't just a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
You're constantly assessing, adjusting course correcting as needed.
So we need to stay flexible.
Yes.
Like we talked about before, sometimes hitting pause on certain goals while we navigate those challenges.
Exactly. And sometimes we might even need to completely revise our goals
Okay.
based on new circumstances.
So it's not failing, it's adapting.
It is adapting.
Okay, I'm seeing this recurring theme, flexibility, adaptability, resilience.
Yeah,
These are like this superpowers we need
absolutely.
to thrive in this crazy financial world.
Absolutely. And I think there's one more crucial ingredient, a long-term perspective.
The power of patience.
Exactly, because when we get caught up in the short term, a market dip or an unexpected expense,
Yeah.
we lose sight of the big picture.
Right.
But if we stay focused on those long-term goals, those blips are less likely to derail us.
Okay, so keep our eyes on the horizon even when the waves are crashing around us.
That's a great way to put it. And it can help with that diversification.
Ah, yes. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. So in investing, that means spreading your risk across different assets like stocks, bonds, real estate.
Mm-hmm.
But it also applies to our overall financial strategy.
Okay, so not just relying on one source of income or having all our savings in one account.
Exactly. Having multiple income streams, different types of savings and investment accounts, it all contributes to a more resilient foundation.
So it's like creating a safety net
Mm-hmm.
with multiple layers of protection.
Yes.
Okay, I like that.
Yes.
And I think there's one more piece of advice that's super important, especially these days. Stay informed.
Yes.
Be willing to adapt.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, especially with finances.
It really is.
Because the financial landscape is constantly changing.
Oh, yeah.
New technologies, new investment options, economic trends popping up all the time.
So we can't just set our goals and forget about them.
Nope. Got to stay curious, keep learning, be open to adjusting as needed.
Right, and that's where resources like NerdWallet can be so helpful.
Absolutely. They offer great insights and practical tips.
Okay, so I think we've covered a ton of valuable information in this deep dive.
We have.
I'm feeling super empowered to tackle my 2025 financial goals.
That's great.
What are your final thoughts? Any parting words of wisdom for our listeners?
Personal finance is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
There will be ups and downs, twists and turns, moments where you need to adjust course.
Mm-hmm.
But with a solid plan, a flexible mindset, and a commitment to lifelong learning, you can create a financial future that feels secure, fulfilling, and aligned with your values.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into achieving your 2025 financial goals.
Now go out there and make those dreams a reality.